So you're probably asking yourself, how exactly is too many reports a data mistake? And I get it. It's how you run your business. You've had these reports for years, and that's a trigger for me. I mean, think about it. You've had these reports and maybe they've been building, maybe you've had reporting systems in place since 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. And they look different, but it's like this pile of information that just keeps growing. So as we chat, I want you to keep an open mind. I'm not going to ask you to dump all your reports. And I understand that the pressure to get rid of anything is fierce. But I invite you to grab a cup of coffee and hear me out. So too many reports is a bad thing. Why? Resources, right? So it takes time to create, to maintain. If that time is being devoted to creating reports and maintaining the data that creates those reports, then that's time that's ultimately not spent making you or your organization money. Another fun find is that the more reports that you find in circulation, the more likely you're going to run into a couple of problems such as just inconsistency, duplication. And that inconsistency shows up in the craziest of ways. Like if you see one report with a metric named, handle time, and another one, why don't they match? And sometimes, yep, there's data issues in it, but more often than not, I find that somebody has decided to change the metric underlying data definition essentially, so you're not measuring what you think you're measuring. And then I bet you've heard the term to measure what matters. And ultimately that phrase is all about measuring the things that drive your business. So whatever goals you've set, are you actually measuring something that can move the needle in the direction that you're hoping to move to? But I have an interesting example on it's not always that clear cut. I had worked with call center operations over the years, and a standard metric that they use is how much time someone on the phone takes to answer questions, right? So that's a handle time metric, and it's average handle time for some aggregated version of it for comparison. So it was really interesting though. We decided to look at the demand. So how many calls are coming in? We found multiple calls coming in for clients. And then we were noticing that the people with more calls in had worse survey ratings. So their customer experience was suffering. That handle time is on scorecards and part of their performance assessments and what have you. And that's just standard common practice for call centers. So we've got this baked in that you need to hurry up and get off the phone is what measuring the average handle time did for individual staff. We really wanted to improve the customer experience. So taking that pressure off of the handle time actually did that. So when we say measure what matters, it's a little bit bigger than just, okay, I'm driving this one behavior that I'm trying to drive. It's really about thinking deep about what you need in order to run your business well. We're not going to talk about a data mistake without having a conversation about what you can do to make some improvements. This does not have to be some giant overhaul. I'm not opposed if you do, but some realistic ideas that you can incorporate into your business will kind of get the ball rolling, I hope, and at least inspire some deep thought into what you're reporting on. So one thing that I've found that helps is if you keep your reports in a centralized location. If you have multiple people trying to access reports and they're all in different spots, they're just not easy to find. So one day I don't care about something, and then the next day I do, and so I'm looking for a report on that something. And if I can't find it, I'm going to ask for a new one, and so or create a new one. And so there's some of that inconsistency and duplications that can arise. Another thought, how much fun do you want to have with this? Just start deleting things. If it looks like it's unused, delete it. Just kidding. Not looking for mutiny here. But it is a time to think about old reports. Just because they've been in use for years doesn't mean that you necessarily need them. But it doesn't mean throw them out either. They just might need a fresh set of eyes to say, where are we at today? And how can we measure the things that matter in this space? And I don't know if you're into minimalism, but you could totally use those strategies in this space as well. So what I'm thinking of is, I don't know if you've heard where you turn your hangers around in a closet, and if you haven't worn that clothing item for 6 months, then go ahead and toss it. Kind of the same thing. What if you put reports that you think aren't in use into some sort of an archive location let everybody know that it's there basically, but if it gets used or has to be pulled out of the archive space, it's a used report. And that'll kind of help you make sure that you don't over delete things, because I know in some organizations you might not use a report but like once a year for some regulatory reporting requirement. So to not get crazy, there's a thought in the minimalism space. Another idea is if someone is requesting a new report, make them get rid of an old one. And I know it's not always that cut and dry, but it at least gets a requester thinking about possibilities, because sometimes it's just a matter of adding a metric into something, or maybe providing a different level of the information, maybe departmental, team leader, whatever the case is, into an existing report, which is a little bit easier to maintain than a whole new report to serve one purpose. And along those same lines, you could develop a process on requesting new reports if you don't already have one. A thought in this space would be to require a business justification where the report is tied to the business objective that someone's looking to measure. And another thought in the new report process would be to assign an action to it. So some sort of a trigger or a range that says that the number that we are really trying to get after needs to be within, this scope of things. And if it's not, we're going to do this thing. So it's clear expectations that require people to really think about what they're asking for and how they're going to actively use it. So you don't end up with 30 reports produced daily that are looked at once a month or so. See, I didn't ask you to do something crazy like dump all your old reports and build new, shiny, minimalistic ones with this motivation and inspiration here, right? No. Do me a favor and give this video a like if you found any value in it, or at least spurred some type of thoughts in your head on how you can improve this data mistake inside of your operation. And this video is part of a series on data mistakes, so check out this one here. And of course, subscribe if you'd like to be first in the know for more data and coffee chats.